So, Nalapat, I will come back to you in just a moment. Ambassador SD Muni, an important aspect here raised by Professor Nalapat in the article is where he talks about how Mohammed Yunus, who was supposed to be simply an interim head of the government, is now paving the way to continue holding on to that power by banning the entirety of the Awami League and not simply Sheikh Hasina. How is it that several countries who continue to give lectures on democracy to India, sir, have completely turned a blind eye when it comes to the situation in Bangladesh, where there is no election in sight? Master Muni, can you hear me?
Is it a question to me?
Yes, sir.
Will you kindly repeat your question?
Yes, Master Muni, I am pointing out an important fact that has been raised by Professor Nalapat in his article, sir, where he's spoken about how Mohammed Yunus has not only banned Sheikh Hasina but the entire Awami League. And this is, of course, in line with a thought that Mohammed Yunus wants to continue holding on to the power that he has no intention for a free and fair election in Bangladesh anytime soon. My question to you, sir, is why do you think several nations that give India lectures on democracy have decided to turn a blind eye to what's happening in Bangladesh?
Well, the question of international politics and the nations turning a blind eye to a particular event doesn't depend either on the truth or on objectivity. It largely depends on the interest and stakes being held by a particular country. And I think what Madhav has not written in his article, which I support the way he has argued, but there are many other things which he could have put in. And one is that he not only may go to the UK, he may as well go to the US. He was the one who was pushed in by the US for a long time. I know for sure that since 2009, the Americans were trying to have an interim government-led elections in Bangladesh because they did not want Hasina at all at any stage. Hasina, Awami League, Mujibur Rahman, they had all come at defying the US intervention when Bangladesh was created. Don't forget it. So since 2009, they have been trying. And in fact, I have done an article for a diplomat in which I say that it is not only the internal revolt against Hasina. Madhav is right in saying that there was corruption, inefficiency in the Hasina government. But that revolt was fanned up. That fire was fanned by the US. It was supported by the US. Therefore, he may not only, and I can give you several evidences of that, perhaps we don't have time for that kind of a discussion. But because of that, he can even go to the US. Now, he has in his Twitter denied that he has any stakes in the UK. Please ask him what he was doing as a chancellor of the Glasgow University. From 2012 to 2018, almost 6 years, he was the chancellor. Was he not earning any money? Where has money been put? In the UK. Then he has what you call the Grameen America and the Grameen Foundation, which have deep stakes in the United States of in United Kingdom. Then he has some social businesses which have deep stakes in the United Kingdom. These are the evidences that he has stakes in the UK. Therefore, he may boldly deny, he has to deny, because it's a question of his credibility to continue. Then secondly, you are also correct in saying that why the other governments are not telling him. As I said, the other governments look on their own stakes. If the Americans have pushed him in, how will they say that you must correct yourself? And therefore, the whole Western lobby will support Yunus in any way. Secondly, Pakistan and China have their own interest and stakes in propping up Yunus, because they don't want Hasina, they don't want India's and Hasina's cooperation, which had continued for last more than 10-15 years. So they want to remove that regime. And both the Chinese and the Pakistanis have deep stakes in them. So the Americans have deep stakes in them. The British have deep stakes in Yunus regime. And the West has deep stakes in Yunus regime. Therefore, they would support him. And why would they don't lecture, the international relations please, you must separate rhetorics from reality. The rhetorics should not be taken on the face value. The reality is always something different and in contrast to that. Therefore, my submission is that some of the aspects which Madhav has highlighted in his article are correct, and that's why Yunus was compelled to deny them. If he has to survive as the head of that government, and if he has owned any credibility to be saved within Bangladesh for his continuing, and that is the reason why he wants to prolong in the name of reforms. Now, the question of reform is also very critical. One of the reforms he has brought about is banning Awami League. But that reform and later prolonged elections have been protested by and objected to by the army, by the BNP, by the Jamaat Islami, and by the new party. Almost everybody wants him to hold elections by December, before December. Why? Because they know that Bangladesh is not being governed properly, either administratively or economically, which are the critical factors. And I am sorry to say that Yunus may be a great economist, but he is no administrator, and he has no political constituency within Bangladesh. So his capacity to govern, mobilize people for the right causes is extremely limited, and that's why Bangladesh is somewhat in a chaos as it is.
Okay, Major and Brijesh Kumar, bringing you to the